What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Welcoming in neworleans.football's Nick Underhill. Big weekend at neworleans.football as well. We had actual football to break down. Nick, I loved all the coverage from Trip, Brooke, your film analysis as well. And that's where I want to start because entering the year, we were on the same page that the offensive line was maybe going to be kind of the limiting factor, right? The determining kind of the ceiling on this team. And through one game, that feels as accurate as ever. As the defense looks incredible, the skill weapons look really good. Derek Carr looks really good. Where are you at with the O-line after breaking down the film?
Worried. Worried, I think, is the right word. Man, that was bad. Like, they really couldn't do anything in the first half. And Trevor Penning was a little bit, it's worrisome. I don't know what they're going to do there. I mean, look, I think the thing you have to keep in mind is that it was his second start of his entire career. He played college football at Northern Iowa. There probably is a on-ramping of him before he kind of hits the highway and off he goes. But like, how long can that on-ramp be? Because I mean, we saw last night in the Jets game, like, if you can't protect your quarterback's in peril, and it can change your whole entire season in one play. And man, he gave up like 8 pressures in that game, 4 hits, a couple sacks. It was one of the shakiest offensive line performances that I can remember in quite some time. And the second half, they start giving them a little bit of help, setting up double teams, chips, all that stuff. And that's great. But like, at some point, your left tackle has to be able to block. And he just didn't look like he could do that. And we saw it in the preseason too. I think it was his first game of the preseason. He struggled with speed. Arden Key comes out and he struggles with speed again. Yeah. I mean, it's something that they got to figure out in a hurry, because I just don't know how many games you can win if your left tackle can't block. Now, the thing I would say is Teron Armstead, when he first came in, made his first 4 starts, they were pretty bad, and he eventually figured it out. But it is a little bit different when you have Drew Brees back there. I mean, one of the smartest quarterbacks in NFL history. So he's just got to figure it out. He's got to figure it out in a hurry. And I think it's incredibly concerning. That was about as shaky as it possibly could have been. And they got to find a way to hide that and hope that he keeps getting better. And if you don't see that improvement, at some point, you got to look at it and make a change. I don't think you're at that point yet. You probably give it a few games. Yeah. But it's something that I think it has to be on the table, and you got to know what you need to see. He needs to be hitting benchmarks now, because that was bad, man.
Yeah, what about in the run game, though? Like, obviously, they struggled protecting the quarterback, but they didn't have a lot of success running the football either. Do you chalk that up to the Titans' defensive front being one of the better ones in the league, and Jeffrey Simmons and company, or was it more of the Saints' struggles?
I think it's all of it. I think you got a struggling team against one of the best fronts in the league, the best run defense in the league last year. Your 2 most talented running backs aren't on the field. I think Jamal Williams is probably the type of back, if you block 5 yards, he'll get you 5.5, because he's going to get what's blocked, and he runs hard. So, he'll get a little bit extra, but there isn't going to be like a whole lot of creativity there. He's a solid player. And, if he's your second or third guy, you have a really good running back room. When he's your first guy, it's not that great. But yeah, I mean, look, it was the whole entire line to me, every single one of them, except Brian Ramczyk. I thought Ramczyk had a good game, and I thought everybody else played pretty poorly overall. And it's got to be a lot better. I'm okay with like the grinded out in the run game. You got your guys out, whatever. You're against a great run defense, but like, man, you got to give your quarterback time to throw the ball. And look, the pass pro was a huge issue in the red zone too. Like, immediately everyone's like, Derek Carr in the red zone, this is what he's always done. And look, maybe that's who he ends up being. But if you go back through and you watch these plays, like, it's pressure. Like, he's on the move on the first trip to the red zone when he misses Mike Thomas in the back of the end zone. Yeah. The second time down, he has Mike Thomas open on a curl. He's thrown to him. His hand gets hit on it. Like, it's just hard to operate when you can't throw the ball. There's no blocking. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that's a big issue, and it's got to be better all the way around.
Talking to Nick Underhill of neworleans.football, go sign up today for all your Saints coverage. One great stat I came across in Tripp's piece was that this is the 9th consecutive game the Saints defense has allowed sub 20 points. That ties a franchise record back from the Dome Patrol in 1991. So the defense looks as elite as ever. And on the flip side of the O-line, Nick, this front office and coaching staff, I think, deserves a ton of credit for putting together a D-line that was this effective here in week number 1.
Yeah, they do. And that was number 1 on my worry list. I'm not sure that is off my worry list. It might be number 2 now, below the offensive line. I mean, that's a shaky Tennessee front. I don't want to take anything from the performance side. I think it's important to keep it in context. Like, they had 4 new guys on it. The returning members playing a new position. Ryan Tannehill looked pretty bad overall. Like, I think it just needs to be kept in context. But look, as far as like a first exposure to the group, all they can do is play the team across from them. And I thought they dominated the game. I mean, they were in there the whole game. They were affecting everything. The interceptions, there's somebody barreling down on the quarterback on almost every one. Carl Granderson looked like a monster in this game. I thought Cam Jordan played really well. They were creative with their blitzes. Colin Saunders was effective. Brian Brzee, it looks like they definitely found a player with him. Every time we see him, he's doing something and getting better and better. So that was a huge start for them. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what else we could have seen from them. I thought they played as good as they could have, and they dominated that game. And look, I would maybe even make the argument that Granderson and Cam won that game for them just with how effective they were rushing the passer and just times getting in there, creating the interceptions and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's moved down on my list. It's still on there just because I need to see a little bit more before I'm going to fully believe. Losing Peyton Turner for an extended period of time with a turf toe injury that's going to need surgery is a big issue. So now that depth is getting torn into already. Isaiah Foskey's probably going to be counted on to do something. He's a healthy scratch last week. I don't think he's ready for it. So just got to see kind of how it comes together. But look, if they keep proving me wrong, I'll come on here and say I'm an idiot for being worried about them. And that's fine because that happens sometimes, but the reasons for concern are there, but they eliminated a lot of them this week.
Foskey being a healthy scratch, 2nd round pick. That's just not something that I'm used to seeing. Even if you're not ready yet, you're going to be active. You're going to be a team's war daddy type guy until you're ready. What should we make of him being a healthy scratch? And now he's got to be called to duty.
I mean, it's a tough look. The one thing with him is that I thought he would be able to come in and find a way to be productive just with his athleticism because he was kind of that guy at Notre Dame. And that is how he won. But I thought you could put him out there on 3rd down and just, hey, go speed rush or whatever. And he'd find a way to get to the quarterback and make a play happen. It was pretty apparent that he didn't have a big pass rush repertoire. And that was going to have to be something they built upon. But you hope that you could get something out of him while adding that stuff on the fly. And he's looked lost. In camp, he just didn't look effective at all. He didn't really have a plan. He's just kind of out there running around. Guys are kind of dominating him a little bit, and he just couldn't find a way to win with speed or power, any which way. So I think he's got a long way to go in his development. And look, I mean, it's unfortunate because they drafted Peyton Turner in the first round, and last year he's a healthy scratch a number of games. For whatever reason, they have invested so many resources in the O-line, D-line, and it's just not working out the way it should. You draft Marcus Davenport and Peyton Turner, you have Cam Jordan, your defensive line should be just stacked. There's so many resources into it, and it's just not where it should be. So it's extremely disappointing. I can't close the book on someone, but 40th pick in the draft should find a way to contribute in year one way or another. And when that's not happening, I mean, something's wrong. So he's going to have all the opportunity now because it's cleared out and he's got to take advantage.
No, the Saints ironically seem better at finding the diamond in the rough than with Henderson and Granderson than they do maybe. But I don't know. I always kind of think back to Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan struggled early on. I don't know that he was a healthy scratch, right? But it took him a couple years, and then he maintained just an unreal level of consistency since. So, we'll see. On the very positive side, Marshawn Lattimore looks better than ever. Where does Marshawn Lattimore rank amongst NFL cornerbacks right now in your mind, Nick?
I mean, I think he's somewhere in the top 5. I mean, Sauce Gardner, Surtain, and I don't know. He's somewhere in there. I think he's somewhere in the top 5. Wherever you want to rank him, I wouldn't argue with that. I mean, there's a handful of really, really good guys at that position, but I think he's in that group, and the talent speaks for itself. It's just always been that matter of consistency, showing up every single week. I talked to him earlier this offseason, did a story with him, and he told me that like he's at a place in his career now where he's looking at like all-time greats. Like he knows he has the talent to be that type of player. It's Deion Sanders, it's Revis, it's where do you rank among those types of players? And for him, I think that mindset, you've seen it manifest in just the way he practices. Like it's just so much more consistent. He's out there, every single rep trying to kill the guy across from him. It doesn't matter if it's Mike Thomas or Lil Jordan Humphrey last year, whoever they put him on, like he was going at him. And I thought we saw that consistency coming together last year. Then he gets hurt this year. I mean, I think we're going to see it. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is the type of matchup that he always showed up for. Like that's a marquee matchup. It was never an issue, but I think we're going to see it week in, week out this year. I think he's a man on a mission. He's aware. He knows that he's 26, 27 years old, and he wants to make his mark now. And I think there's just a maturation to him on and off the field that's just going to really play into really great results. But this matchup this week, look, when he's playing like that, like I don't know if there's a more enjoyable thing to watch on a football field. Like watching him cover the way he can cover, and when his athleticism and his instincts and his film study like all kind of coincide to what we saw on Sunday. I mean, it's amazing to watch. I mean, he's just one of them guys. He has otherworldly talent, and I mean, he showed it. I mean, he's that good.
Nick, I want to ask you about the tight end rotation. You had Juwan Johnson play 49 snaps, Foster Moreau 32, Jimmy Graham played 9, and Taysom Hill played 9. So 4 tight ends significant action here. I mean, 9 plays from your 4 tight end is not nothing. And so when you see that rotation out there, is that what you expected it to be, and is that what you expect moving forward?
I hope they find a way to get Taysom on the field more, maybe not necessarily like specifically at tight end, but just like in general, under center, whatever you got to do, find a way to use him. I guess, I kind of thought this would be a Taysom game a little bit just because they're so short on running backs, and then like they can't run the ball at all. And it's just kind of like, all right, like why waste those snaps a little bit? So I guess I see it from just the, why have the sunken cost for the sake of having the cost out there. So I get it from that, but like, I think it should shake up a little bit. I mean, Juwan, I think is going to be the guy most weeks. If they're more effective in like getting shorter third downs, I could see Jimmy getting more snaps just, on a 3rd and 3 or whatever, but it was like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8.
Yeah. It was
So it didn't make a lot of sense maybe to get him on the field in those situations. So I could see it tilting a little bit, but I think ultimately, week to week, those top 3 guys, that's probably going to be how they snap out. I think it'll be Juwan, Foster, and then Jimmy's probably, the complementary type player. And then, Taysom, some weeks it's going to be a lot, some weeks it isn't. I just think overall offensively, like I would just like to see a philosophy with Taysom where they figure out how to get him on the field and use him every single week. Like there just has to be a role for him every week, I think. But yeah, I mean, I do think that's probably going to be ultimately the rotation.
Is it fair to say that what you saw at a Carr on the drive to close out the game is kind of like the difference between Derek Carr and Andy Dalton? Like, I know that's reductive. I know there's other differences, but the trust and ability to go win that game, which I feel like you had multiple opportunities to do last year and failed to do so.
Yeah, I think they lose that game last year. I don't think there's any question about it. They found a way to lose that game last year. That's just what they were doing. Andy Dalton in those pressure situations, like he would be fine the whole game, and then the fourth quarter would be inaccuracies, mistakes, nervousness. Like he couldn't close them out. Carr went out there and closed out the game. So no question about it. I love it that he just kind of like nutted up and threw down the field. Like it's just that's what you want to see. Like that's what you want to see. I mean, that's how you win a game. So yeah, definitely the difference. I thought overall though, like I thought he played a really good game. When you go back through it and you watch the details and you look at like the failures make sense in the context of like the offensive line wasn't blocking. I don't think he's going to be an elite quarterback this year, but if he can win you games like that, ugly games, grind it out, make the plays when you need to make them, like that's really all this team needs. Now, I think he's going to be better than he was last week moving forward when they block a little bit better. But I mean, he's the right guy for this team, given, realistically what they were able to get done, and being able to close out a game like that for that defense when they're playing like that is really all this team needs. You can find your way into the playoffs playing football like that.
Nick Underhill, neworleans.football, gives us the best insight into this Saints team. Him, Brooke Kirchhoff, Mike Triplett, and the entire team do an excellent job over there at neworleans.football. Cannot recommend signing up enough if you like the New Orleans Saints. Got some great LSU and Tulane coverage going down as well now. Nick, thank you so much, man. Anything you need to push for the site or anything? Go ahead.
Nothing, man. Just if you like deep dives in the Saints, film study, all that stuff, sign up for the site, neworleans.football.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.